leaning on elitism and academia and all of the established order,
leaning on an education
to validate your points.
What?
Doesn't make them true.
Wait! Did you just tell me that using education to validate what I believe in is a bad way to live? Is a bad way to think? Wait! I just want to make this so clear. Dude. So your critique, I just want to clarify. Your critique of me is that I'm educated. But what is going on? Live life. Do you support Trump?
Oh yeah.
All right, Mr. Live life.
I don't know why anybody who's American wouldn't.
Okay, maybe because true Americans want to protect and preserve the American Constitution, and Donald Trump has been trying for years to eradicate it, even explicitly so. I mean, fuck, he literally said that he wants to terminate the Constitution in December of 2022. There's like a billion other reasons, but that's a good place to start, right?
I think you're conflating things that are said. It's like he said fine people on both sides, yada, yada, yada. If you listen to the whole clip, the entire thing is explicitly not what the left tries to make it out to be. So you take little clips and snippets here and there and try to make it look how you want to look.
So I'm actually referencing a statement by Donald Trump.
Yeah, well, so are the people who are talking about the fine people on both sides.
So in response to my claim,
one statement,
I just want to clarify that in response to my claim that Donald Trump put a statement out on Truth Social in December of 2022, explicitly calling for the termination of the American Constitution, your response is that no, he didn't.
No. Again, you're doing the exact same thing that they always do. This is your response. You try to put it in a box, try to make it sound like it's what it is, and you constantly do this kind of shit.
How about I just read you the message?
Yeah, you can read me the message, and guess what? They can read me the exact same message. They can put the exact same thing. And then you go back and you learn the context. Hold on. You go back and you learn the whole context of what's going on. And it's completely different than what you guys say it is every freaking time.
I'm about to give you the full context by you guys, reading the full message.
The previous caller, you just go, I'm gonna tell you the people who are saying the economy is gonna crash. These people. Here's the difference between people.
So before we talk about the economy, I just want to.
No.
I'm not going to hold on because I made a claim that Donald Trump called for the termination of the Constitution, and you've now done anything but respond or address that claim. So I want to read you off the entirety of his message. I want to read you off.
Absolutely, we have.
Can I just read you off the actual statement?
No, because it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit.
It's a statement that's
full of shit.
Whoa, slow down. I want to read you the literal text, the words. Yeah, Donald Trump
and you want
to
quote the literal study from this economics group and this economics group and this economics group. All you guys do is point to quote unquote authority and act like that means something. Well, who made it mean something? Who made it mean something? I want to clarify.
You have to have, I want to clarify. We just really need to clarify here. So my claim is that Donald Trump put out a statement explicitly calling for the termination of the Constitution, and you don't think that me reading off Donald Trump's statement where he explicitly called for the termination of the Constitution is enough evidence?
No, I didn't even. You made that claim, and I didn't even refute the claim. I just said, you leave out a huge... No, I don't need to. That's the whole thing. You guys try to trap people in. He said this and he said that, and this is what he said, and I can prove it, I can prove it, I can prove it. I don't give a shit. I can take the whole context of what the man is trying to do. I'm not dumb enough to get sucked into a little rabbit hole about one statement Donald Trump once made. I don't give a shit, dude. Like, you're not listening to me. You try to trap people in this little rabbit hole of, he did this, and he did that, and he did this. And I'm saying... back the fuck up. Look at the whole context of what's going on in the world.
So what he's trying to do. So what was the context?
What he has done.
Can you give me the context behind him trying to erode and destroy the backbone of this country, which is the American Constitution?
You're pathetic, dude.
No, you are. Because you support a man who wants to destroy the backbone of America, and yet you think you have the right to call yourself a patriot.
What an asinine statement. Based on one statement that he made, based on what?
Based on him calling for the termination of the only thing that, like, the formulation of this country, based upon him calling for the termination of the Constitution? What? You know,
the termination of the Constitution.
Yeah, to get rid of the Constitution, that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah. You guys take everything that you want to literally, and you take everything that You don't want to exactly the opposite of how it is.
We know this was literal. You
guys are pathetic.
No. You're crashing out.
So why hasn't he just gone
you're crashing out.
Started arresting judges and bullshit like that?
So it's actually really funny.
Why hasn't he done that?
It's actually really funny.
He wants to eradicate the Constitution. Well, he's commander in chief right now.
It's actually really funny.
Declare martial law and just start exporting all of the people who don't believe in him and putting them in prison and doing all those things. Like, you guys are so freaking dramatic. Dude,
let me know when you're done talking. Let me know when you're done talking, emotional boy. Let me know when you're done talking, emotional boy. So, emotional little boy, are you ready for me to respond? You're spiraling. I think that you should try to get a hold of yourself, because it looks it's quite frankly, it's hilarious when you come up here and you call me pathetic, but then you crash out and spiral for 5 minutes. So let's just hold ourselves together a little bit more than we are right now. I'm going to go and respond. So you just asked a very valuable question. You said, well, if he wants to be this dictator that wants to eradicate the Constitution and do all this, then why hasn't he done it yet? Well, funny enough, he did try to coup our civil and electoral processes, nullify the voice and the vote of the people, and install himself as president in 2020. And then he even admitted to it in court, so my evidence is his own testimony. Okay? And then you said, well, why isn't he just imprisoning people that he doesn't like without due process? Well, he has. In fact, the Supreme Court agrees with me, and they've ordered him to facilitate the return of people to America that he's deported and imprisoned without due process, right? And then you said, why doesn't he then just fire judges? So it's actually, he has fired immigration judges so he could then install Republican immigration judges. That was a big thing that he ran on. And now, for judges that can't be fired under his authority, he started to call them activist judges that need to resign and need to step down. And if you go on the MAGA Twitter, you will straight up see Republicans telling the Trump administration to straight up ignore the courts, and the Trump administration has listened. They have. Right now, he's being held in contempt of one federal judge that ruled he had to turn a plane around with Venezuelan migrants on it. So it's funny because all the indicators that you named off that you think would be true if Donald Trump was trying to be a dictator are true.
3 straight lies. 3 straight lies. So you ready? Number 1, he did follow the Constitution. If he wanted to be a dictator when they stole the election in 2020, he could have done it. He was the commander in chief. He could have declared a national emergency and declared martial law. And yeah, it would have been rough, but he was in control. So he could have done it. Number 2, on that same point, he did follow the Constitution. The Constitution has provisions, which is why the vice president, who did betray him, I would say that, but that's why he was even in the Senate, because the states have to ratify, which means there is a process for contesting elections in the Constitution that you think he's trying to overthrow.
It's funny because if we want to relate the Constitution,
total 100% lie. No, you talk. I'm going to talk. That was a lie.
You have more to say?
Number 1 is a lie, provably false. Number 2,
I cannot wait to prove you wrong. Nice rhetoric, though. It was cute.
Come here.
You said you had more to say, so I'll wait.
Yeah, mess. Well, I've got a kid that I'm going to take care of, and I'm, hopeful that this kind of mind dribble that you peddle onto people doesn't ever peddle onto my kids or the rest of the country.
So if you don't want to
fall apart,
you know what you need to do, and I really hope the only way to make sure that this mind dribble,
you don't need to tell me what I need to do, bud.
You know what?
You don't need to tell me.
I was about to, but I don't genuinely want you to do it. Because I was about to point out that the mind dribble that you are describing of mine is just an ability to critically think, predicated on a foundation of education, right? So, are you basically telling us that you don't want your child to critically think? You don't want your child to be curious about what's true and false in the world around them? You don't want your child to have a foundation of a high level of education? You want your child to drink the Kool-Aid just like you? You are the problem with this country. Right? But to respond to your statements about my first claim that he tried to overthrow the results of the 2020 election, you called that a lie. He admitted to it. He sent fake slates of electorates to 7 of the key swing states that Biden had won. Okay? And then he sent these fake slates of
Who did that before? Who did that before?
Fake votes.
Who did that before?
Nobody's ever
done
that before.
Who did that before?
Nobody.
Thousands of, there's been thousands of alternative Oh wow, dude! You need to do some history, bro.
Yeah, I do know
The
my history.
Democrats did it.
I do. I do know my history,
Dem-
sir. You know, and actually, it's funny because according to Donald Trump's own legal argument to the Supreme Court, and then inside of the January 6th,
every election,
sir, are you going to continue? Are you going to continue to interrupt me? Are you going to continue to interrupt me? We're not going to do interruptions, little boy. How come your child's more mature than you are?
You're just freaking lying. That's the problem.
So no.
But you just keep muting me so that you can just talk over.
I am muting you because you're talking over me. Were you never taught boundaries?
Right, because you're lying. I say lie.
Yeah, for sure. Go. Well, if I'm so wrong, how come you want to sign? I thought that conservatives liked free speech, but apparently, whenever Dean talks, you want to immediately.
Democrat presidential candidates. Every time a Democrat has lost in the last 50 years, they've had alternate electors show up.
Okay, so
do some freaking history.
Wait, so I actually
grow up, dude.
It's what's called. So I know what you're referencing, and I don't mind educating you. Okay, so you're talking about alternate.
Oh, okay. Thanks so much. You're so smart and educated.
Yes. Are you ready to learn?
Gone to some Ivy League school, so
I mean, you're seriously not letting me speak at all, man. Are we gonna have a problem? Do I need to mute you?
Oh my gosh.
Do I need to? What? Like seriously, you're an adult, right? Like, is that your child in the other room, or like your brother? I don't know. Or like your child, or like your best friend that you're going to go to school with tomorrow. Listen, all that I'm asking you for is for the right to speak on my own platform for more than 10 seconds. I feel like that's a fair request.
Yeah, and you did for like 3 long,
no,
big,
I just want a productive conversation. Okay, that's all I want. All right, when you
huge long lives,
there he goes again. Is this seriously how we're going to do this, man? Okay, I'm going to give you your last opportunity to continue this conversation without me literally spam muting you. I hate when I have to do that so much, but I'm going to have to do it if I want to talk. So I'm going to go ahead and start speaking. Please don't interrupt me. All right. And I'll give you the same respect. So anyways, back to what I was going to say. So you try to argue that every single Democrat that has lost an election in the last 50 years has sent alternative slates of electorates into Congress. So first of all, that claim is just analytically false. No. Alternative slates of electors that we sent in Congress on the ratification of the vote on January 6th have not been sent by any presidential
at all.
by any presidential candidate.
Yeah, whatever. I don't.
Okay, man. What are we doing? I'm going to go to restart. So you made the claim, right, that all of the Democrats that have lost in presidential elections in the last 50 years, Grace, thank you for the galaxy, have sent alternative slates of electorates to the ratification of the vote on January 6th. That claim is not true. Okay? What is true is that the governor's offices of states in an election will typically send 1 or 2 slates of electorates to Congress with a vote saying that each candidate won, so that when they know the official outcome of the election from their state, they'll then just ordain the appropriate slates of electorates to cast the vote for the correct candidate. All right? But that is a legal process that is managed by the governor's office of states operating inside of their typical jurisdiction. But when we're referencing what Donald Trump did in the 2020 election, he didn't have an ordained official alternative slates of electorates come from these states to Congress. He sent unofficial, fake slates of electorates to these states that their governor offices knew nothing about to cast fake votes back to Congress saying that he won. And we even have the emails from the governor's offices of these 7 key swing states to Congress saying that we don't know where the fuck these votes came from, and they're just simply not true. So once again, when you know your history, when you're educated on American elections, you would never equivocate between genuine processes of the presidential election and Donald Trump's illegal attempted coup.
It wasn't an illegal attempted coup.
I just told you exactly how it was. I bet you didn't listen. And quite frankly, if you didn't listen, I'm going to kick you.
If I didn't listen to you saying that the governors appoint those electors?
If you didn't listen to my description insofar as how your argument was not the case.
Historically, if there's a contested election, there are alternate electors appointed.
That's also just simply not true. So the reason why there's been alternate slates of electors in Congress in the past is just simply because the governor's office sends 2 if the election is close. right? And then once the election results finalize, they then authorize the appropriate slate of electors. But that's like, once again, an official office that is consequential of the jurisdiction of the governor's offices. And what Donald Trump did had nothing to do with any legitimate jurisdiction over the slates of electorates. He literally just sent fake people to those states to cast fake votes back to Congress.
Okay, so answer me this, riddle me this, Batman. Why didn't it succeed?
Yeah, great question.
And,
I have a great answer.
Because Mike Pence. Riddle me this at the same time.
No. I'm going to answer one question at once. The answer to your first question is Mike Pence. Mike Pence did not feign ignorance towards Donald Trump's fake votes. He threw them out and he certified the votes for Biden because that was the legitimate outcome of the election. He then went on a mic and said that he places the Constitution above Donald J. Trump. And that's why you call him a backstabber. So I think you're a traitor to this country. And your first claim when you came up here was, how could any American ever not support Donald Trump? Well, that's how, because he's a traitor to this country, and so are you for supporting and condoning his actions.
Wow. Well, if you think what he's doing is bad for the country, like actually caring about the American workers first, actually trying to put people here at an even playing field with the rest of the world, I feel sorry for you, man. Like you're this elitist, idealist type of person. It's like education and authoritative groups, and let's point to this authority and that authority to try to validate our own point. And all those authorities were propped up by elitists that want to have that authority.
Would you label yourself as anti-elitist?
I would label myself as somebody who cares about people.
So you're anti-elitist, right?
No. I think if you have people who are...
Okay, so you don't like elitists, right?
Like, don't listen to me. I didn't say that.
Okay.
I don't like people who...
You just called me an elitist and said that was bad. So this implies that you don't like elitists,
I didn't say it was bad. No, I say leaning on elitism and academia and all of the established order.
Leaning on an education?
To validate your points.
What?
Doesn't make them true.
Wait. Did you just tell me that using education to validate what I believe in is a bad way to live, is a bad way to think? Wait, I just want to make this so clear. Dude. So your critique, I just want to clarify. Your critique of me is that I'm educated.
No, that's not what I said.
Yes, it is. You just told me that I lean on education.
For a educated
You
person.
just told me that I lean on education to validate what I think, perceive, and feel, and somehow that's a bad thing. So in other words, I'm wrong because I'm smart.
No, I didn't say that again, but that's typical liberal. Great response.
Or maybe it's just a typical MAGA thing to not be able to describe how you feel because the way you feel is indescribable.
I said how
as it's not reliant on facts, reason, or logic, and it's propped up by your own ego, prejudice, and biases.
I described it, and you weren't listening. Maybe that's the alternative.
I don't know, man. When we have over 10,000,
I don't know.
When we have over 10,000 people in a room saying that is what you said, I don't think I'm in the wrong for hearing that. I think you're either lying or you didn't represent your view correctly in the way that you described it. I'm a nice guy. I'll allow you another chance to try to re-describe your view. Okay? So I thought you said that leaning on academia, leading on education to, give credence to what I believe, right? My beliefs as a whole is a bad thing. And then you said, no, that's not what you said. So how about you rephrase it in a way that will make sense to me?
So I said elitism, authoritarianism, the established order of things, the way you look at who decides what is the authority and what is not. In like, what's that, bud?
Yeah.
Oh, Band-Aids. You go to Allie?
Yeah.
The way that you establish what is true and what is not true is all based on authorities. Formal education.
What?
Hold on.
This is so
I'm not done talking,
This is
bro.
so hypocritical.
I'm not done talking.
You literally
Formal
think that Biden
education
rigged
has
2020 because an authority.
Thanks for letting me talk, bro.
Because an authority said so.
Thanks for letting me talk.
Right, God.
Yeah, I think that formal education has been overrun by people who decide what is true and what is not true, and then tell people like you who now say they're educated and they can tell you how the world works. Dude, I want out of the system. I want the entire elite, like established order, to take a bath. Like, it needs to change. Nobody is crashing the stock market on purpose. Nobody is trying to destroy the stock market.
Wait.
They are trying to give back to the American people the ability to produce things. They're trying to give back to the American people the issue of their currency. They're trying to give people the American, which is, by the way, 100% constitutional. If you read the Constitution, you'd know
you've been speaking for a while.
The issue of our currency.
Can I butt in here?
The issue of our currency is constitutionally a power that belongs to the Congress, which is the people's house. Let me know he's trying to take away. Well, you asked me why I support Trump. He's trying to give back to the people the power that has been usurped from them by the elite group of people. Now, am I mad at the elite people for doing it? No, we've allowed them to do it.
This thesis has to come to an end so I could respond. Perfect. Okay. So there's one thing that you said in there that I picked up on. You told us that nobody's trying to intentionally crash the stock market. Donald Trump said he intentionally crashed the stock market, verbatim, explicitly.
I don't care. I don't care if he said that. What is the point of what he's trying to do? That's the whole thing. You can't see the entire, it's like you're stuck on one tree. There's a whole forest out there, bro.
God.
He's playing the entire field of what he's trying to do.
This is
unreal.
Just expressed to you. So this is so unreal to me. It is so unreal to me because you're right. You don't care. And I appreciate you for being honest. In fact, if you go to my main account and you look at the caption of my most recent post, it is, and I quote, MAGA doesn't care. Because you're right. You just simply play pretend. And you've demonstrated that to us on this live. You come up here and you pretend to be this rational person with principles. Okay? But you're not at all. Okay? Because you describe these principles to us. You're like, you love this country. You're a patriot. And you want to defend what's important to core American values. Okay? But earlier, when I pointed out that Donald Trump is the exact opposite of that, he has eroded core American values and explicitly called for the termination of the American Constitution, which underpins American values, right? You told me that you didn't give a shit, that you didn't care, all right? The mask came off when you can no longer just simply play pretend and act like you hold to any genuine principles or hold red lines against politicians. But I mean, all of this is just merely rhetoric, dude. I care what he does. It's just simply words that you speak so you're not totally ostracized from society. Or in other words, maybe it's also possible that you play pretend with principles to seemingly make yourself out to be a better person than you are. Because if you were honest with yourself about what you think and how you feel and how you're willing to do whatever it takes to support Trump, and you'll never hold a red line against him in your life, you'd have a worse vision of yourself, right? But I just also want to point out here at the end there, you told me that nobody's trying to intentionally crash the stock market, meaning that seemingly you hold to this principle that if one were to try to intentionally crash the stock market, that'd be bad, that'd be wrong, that'd be a very bad thing that shouldn't happen. But then when I tell you that Donald Trump has explicitly said he is intentionally crashing the stock market, guess what? That pretend principle goes out the window.